Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. There is all kinds of talk and debate going on about the demolition of the house that the four Idaho students were murdered in. And it doesn't seem like either side is too concerned about it.
Newly revealed emails tonight are adding to the increasingly contentious debate over the fate of the house where four University of Idaho students were killed last fall. Emails obtained by the New York Times indicate that both the defense attorney for the accused killer, Brian Koberger, and the lead prosecutor have given their consent for the house at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, to be demolished by the university, which was gifted by the property owner earlier to the university after the murders. Koberger's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, telling campus officials her team has, quote, no objection to the planned demolition, having already walked the site themselves. And County Prosecutor Bill Thompson wrote to the university he too has no objection since, quote, the scene has been substantially altered from its condition at the time of the homicides, including removal of relevant property and furnishings, removal of some structural items such as wallboard and flooring, and subjected to extensive chemical application, creating a potential health hazard. These are some of the reasons that we have concluded that a jury view would not be appropriate. And that yet the majority of the victims' families have indicated that they want the house to stay standing until after Koberger's criminal trial is over. They believe it's an important piece of evidence that jurors may want to see for themselves at some point during a trial. Shannon Gray, the attorney for Kaylee Gonzales' family, has been outspoken about this, says the families of Madison Mogan and Xana Cronoto also do not want the house to be demolished. I spoke with Gray last week about the family's wishes and how the university has responded to them.
I think we've expressed, over and over again to them that it's important to just keep the house there just in case someone needs it. And then when the trial's over, do whatever you want with it. And the response has basically been, victims' families spend legal money to give us a legal argument on why we shouldn't have to be able to demo the house, which I find is just absolutely ridiculous.
I understand completely where the state is coming from on this because it's been altered and it's not at all like it was when this murders happened. There's been personal items taken out. We saw that initially they brought certain things back to the families. I'm assuming the other two roommates have gotten their belongings out of there, the surviving roommates. It's not like the situation at Marjorie Douglas in Parkland because they left that scene exactly the way it was. So that argument is very valid to me. And obviously the defense is not concerned about it. Ann Taylor just said, sure, go for it. So I guess they're not concerned about whatever's in that house or if there is something in there. But I agree with the Gonzales attorney, Shannon Gray, and the families because I personally do think it's important to have it available, just in case that's something that they want to look into. It's not a house like any other house out there. It's highly unique. And once you destroy it, it's gone for good. So I think it's important. That's my personal opinion on it. But at the same time, I can see where, they're all coming from, where A, it's not like it was, and B, I'm guessing this Koberger's team doesn't think there's anything in there that's going to cause him any sort of issues at trial.
A University of Idaho spokesperson telling the New York Times that this is another step towards healing. It is definitely a balancing act. The school says it does not have a timeline for the demolishment, though at points the university has said teardown was imminent, only to then go ahead and push back the plans. And joining me now is Mike Baker, national correspondent for the New York Times. He wrote the piece.
The school wants it down because it's about money for the school, for the university. It's it's got this memories to it. It's got these. It's considered an eyesore. I hate to say that word, but that's what comes to mind. And for the university, it's all about their reputation and bringing in the money and having this murder house. And I hate to say that because four beautiful souls were taken. That it causes a lot of you know heartache for them. And really, I don't believe for a hot second that they're thinking about the victims' families on that. It's all about their reputation and their incoming dollars.
And he is the one who obtained those emails. That was a great get, Mike. It was interesting. We knew, Mike, that they were going to demolish the house. But what's new in your emails is that it says that the house was substantially altered, that they removed some of the structural items, wallboard, flooring. It sounds like the inside of the house is very, very different than what we may have expected.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was surprised to see those things too, that there was that level of wall removal, flooring removal, and certainly the furnishings. We'd seen some of that, the mattresses come out of the home and that sort of thing. And, I think that the general perception is, would a jury be looking at a scene that is close to what it was when the killings happened? It sounds like the prosecution has kind of come to the conclusion that this is a totally different dynamic inside that house now. So whatever sounds that may be happening there, may not carry like they would otherwise. On the other hand, you certainly hear from Steve Gonzales that there's still potential here that a jury might want to see this layout, what this house looks like. It's certainly unusual, kind of rooms stacked on top of each other. And their sense of like, well, wait a second, if there's any chance that a jury might want to see this or that it could benefit the case, why take the risk and knock it down now? That doesn't make sense to them.
It's interesting. The University of Idaho has been pretty clear that the reason that they want to tear it down is because it's frankly difficult for the students who live in the area. It's right next to the campus, as you know. But in your piece, I mean, you explained that in other instances, places have been kept up. Parkland, I mean, the decision has been made, even though it's emotionally difficult sometimes, to keep these buildings standing in other trials.
Yeah, you covered the Murdoch case very closely. You remember the jurors going to that property as well and spending an hour sort of walking around, getting a sense of the scene. And in that case, you see a benefit of like how far apart are things here? How long does it take to get from point A to point B? And those things can help a jury kind of fully understand. In this case, you might have 3D representations of this house. Is that enough for a jury to fully understand the dynamics, the sight lines, how sound travels in the building? Those are sort of the questions of when does a jury sort of benefit from actually being on site versus being shown graphics or descriptions of what the site is.
So I think that we need to hang on to the house until through the trial. But again, seems as though a majority is against that. I think it's definitely even though even though the home is not as it was, and I didn't even have any idea that besides the personal belongings of the roommates, that anything else was really dealt with in the house. Like they're stating that there's like boards gone, there's walls. I didn't know any of that had occurred inside the home. I mean, obviously we knew that they had used, supplies to look for blood, luminol and what have you, but I didn't know that they did all this other extensive stuff until this report from the New York Times. So it's definitely, to me, a tough decision. But again, if both the state and defense are not against its being demolished and the school wants to go forward, I think it's going to be really hard for the families to fight for it to stay up. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that they need to leave it up? As well as the Parkland case, and of course, Brian Ensign mentioned in the piece, about the Murdaugh, trial as well. I think there's something to be said for being able to personally be in a crime scene and where a murder took place. I think it's obviously highly disturbing, but I think a jury could really benefit from that because that house is, again, it's not like any other traditional house whatsoever. But all right, that's all I've got for this one, guys. Again, we do have a lot of Idaho stuff coming out, so more soon. With that said and done, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.